Is the screen visible to you all, boys? Yeah, is the screen visible?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Very good, very good. So actually we had started unit 2, which consists of input output organizations, specifically IO interface. We started discussing the peripheral devices or the external devices, uh, like keyboard, monitor, printer, magnetic tape, magnetic disk, hard disk, plotters, card readers, analog to digital converters. Then we discussed the use of ASCII alphanumeric characters. This was the table, and we tried to decode from this table the ASCII code for capital A. And we said the ASCII code for capital A is 1000001, like this. Okay, column first, then the rows later. Okay, this is our MSB and this is our LSB. That's what we had mentioned. Then input output interface, you always remember my example. I am trying to run along with the fastest runner in the world, say Usain Bolt. So similarly, peripheral devices trying to work with the CPU. So here CPU is Usain Bolt and all the peripheral devices you can treat like me. So there are differences in the formats, data transfer rates, uh, the mechanism, the devices which they are made of, which I had mentioned here. For example, this all this we are taking from our textbook, prescribed syllabus textbook, computer system architecture by Maurice Mono, which is also there in your classroom, Google Classroom. So all the material is in the Google Classroom, as well as all the topics are there in the videos. So I'll share the YouTube video link also today if some of you have missed or you want to listen again later. So this here few are the differences between peripheral devices and CPU. Naturally, peripheral devices are very slow as compared to CPU. Okay. Then it means as there are differences between CPU and the peripheral devices, they need an interface between them. So the interface between them itself is called as the interface unit. And what is the job of that interface unit? The job of that interface unit is synchronization. Okay, synchronization. Now, if you remember this diagram, we had said that these are the peripheral devices. These are the external devices. These are keyboard, monitor, printer, hard disk, magnetic tape, plotter, everything. So these are the external devices. These are the peripheral devices. This was our CPU. Guys, this is all covered already. Just for the sake of continuity, I am uh, taking a revision for maybe 3, 4, 5 minutes max above of this. So these are all external devices, keyboards and monitors and printers. This is our CPU. Okay. So the CPU will be talking to these external devices through these interface units, and the CPU has IO bus. The CPU has IO bus. So, and the IO bus, it will be again categorizing data bus, address bus, control bus. CPU will be activating a specific line. CPU will be activating a specific line, and that specific line address will be decoded by the interface unit. All then that interface unit knows that this is meant for it. So that way the communication will be happening or facilitated between the CPU and the external devices. Now the CPU talks with the external devices through interface unit, but CPU will also talk to the memory unit, and the memory unit will also talk to the external devices. So just as you have this IO bus, so you also have something called as a memory bus. Now we had mentioned that IO bus and memory bus can be shared or can be separate. That option also we had seen. See here, these were the three options, where the first option we had mentioned that the memory and the IO bus are different. Second one, we had mentioned that the memory and IO bus are same, but control lines are separate. The third one, we had mentioned that the bus is same as well as the control lines are also same. Now, in the first case where you have separation of memory and IO bus, we said there is a need of IOP. That is input output processor along with the CPU, along with the CPU. So this IO processor, we said that this is also called as data channel. This is also called as data channel. Then we mentioned the difference between isolated versus memory mapped IO. Isolated, this we had taken it twice. This we had taken it twice. Then we had mentioned one example of IO interface, wherein the IO interface consists of ports, control register, status register, buffer, buses, timing and control circuit. So CPU will be communicating through the data bus to the devices. Then you have read and write lines. Then you have these three lines: chip select, RS0, RS1 to determine the address assigned to the interface. This was our diagram. This was our diagram. You can see here port A and port B. Okay, so port A and port B uh, basically are, you can say, data register. Here data can be ported through the IO devices, through the IO device. This is the status register. Then this is the timing and control. Here this chip select and RS0 and RS1, their status will determine. This is all being repeated. That's why I'm going very fast. Okay. So whether it is port A or port B or control or status register, is it not? So this was that. Now those read and write control lines, what they do, they specify whether it is input or whether it is output. Now, all these, whether it is port or whether it's control, whether it's status, they communicate directly with the IO device. Understand? Whether it is port, whether it is control, whether it is status, they directly communicate with the IO devices. You can visualize your IO devices somewhere here, and you can visualize your CPU somewhere. And by visualizing this, you can also know that the CPU will be communicate with the uh, devices through these buses, with the devices through this bus. Let me check. Somebody uh, has requested something on the chat window. Nothing, na? Hopefully all is okay. Right. So I'll go back to this. Now, coming to the most important topic, and which is very easy also, very interesting also, that is called as the asynchronous data transfer. That is called as the asynchronous data transfer. For that, again, uh, you have to take some examples, generic examples, to connect with what is the literal meaning of this asynchronous or synchronous data transfer, asynchronous or synchronous data transfer. So, for example, let us say uh, you decide to do some activities. You decide to do some activities. Those activities may be in sequence, or those activities may be at different timings. Maybe they have a you're doing parallelly, or maybe you're doing one after the another. There is a sequence decided. In such cases, you will be deciding your clocks, right? Let us have all our clocks same timing, is it not? Then we can, okay, at 10 o'clock you call, at 10:05 I will be calling, at 10:10 you will be transferring this, at 10:20 she will be doing that. So that kind of synchronization you will be doing, that kind of synchronization will be doing. Similarly, in a computer system, there are many devices, and there is a lot of data transfer, data exchange, control transfer, signal information exchange. Okay. So for you need to synchronize all their activities, and that synchronization of all that activities will be done with the help of a clock pulse. Okay, a clock pulse, and that clock pulse will be supplied by a pulse generator, but this is a shared common one. This is a shared. Okay. Now this clock pulse will be applied to all the registers. This clock pulse will be applied to all the registers. Okay. And all these internal register simultaneously can have a data transfer, can have data exchanges during the occurrence of that clock pulse. Okay. Say for example, you have a CPU and you have an IO interface. What is an IO interface? You know that CPU cannot directly talk to the peripheral devices. CPU cannot directly talk to the peripheral devices. So for that, CPU has to interact with the peripheral devices through IO interface. Now you have these two units, one called as the CPU and the other one called as the IO interface. Okay. Now these are designed independently of each other. The CPU and the IO interface are designed independently of each other. Now, if the CPU and the IO interface have a common clock, have a common clock, and the clock is shared. The clock is shared. The interface and all the registers of the CPU share the same clock. Then this data transfer between these two units is called as synchronous. This data transfer between these two units is called as synchronous. I'll take a pause here because I want to ensure, this being an online virtual class, who is doing what, don't know. So I just want to confirm once again that you know the meaning of synchronous. Let us assume that you are not listen up to now, but I am stressing that now you listen once again one line which I say and you remember that. I'll confirm with 2 3 students just to ensure that you are listening. Okay, I know you are hardworking and intelligent, but online classes we have to confirm in between what's going on. We don't know. So here I was trying to give the definition of synchronous data transfer. I was trying to give the definition of synchronous data transfer, and we had taken two devices. One device is CPU and the other device is IO interface, and the other device is IO interface. And we said that the data transfer will be called as synchronous data transfer. We said that the data transfer will be called as synchronous data transfer if there is a shared common clock pulse. There is a shared common clock pulse between CPU and IO devices. Then the synchronous data transfer is facilitated. If you understood this, one or two yes in the chat window will be, I'll be happy to look at. Did you understand synchronous data transfer meaning, guys? Okay. Enough. That's it. Thank you. Thank you, Naveshri, Ajay, and Aparna. So we'll try to go further. But maximum of the time, this is not the case. What is not the case? Synchronous is not the case. Synchronous is not the case means sharing of common clock is not the case. Okay. So it means everybody has its own clock that will be called as a private clock. That will be called as a private clock. So these private clocks will be used by the internal registers of that device. These private clocks will be used by the internal register of that device. Okay. Now, in such a case, those two devices will be called as asynchronous. Those two devices will be called as asynchronous. Now, if you have understood the meaning of synchronous, you have also understood the meaning of asynchronous. If you understood the meaning of synchronous, you also understood the meaning of asynchronous. Okay. So asynchronous means what? Separate clocks, different devices, different clocks. Those different clocks for those internal registers of those devices. Now, whenever asynchronous data transfer occurs, okay, whenever the asynchronous data transfer occurs, both the devices have to indicate to each other that this is the timing at which they have sent the data. This is the timing at which they have sent the data. Are you getting it? The mode is which mode? The mode is asynchronous data transfer mode. Now, two devices are there. Let us say CPU and some other device. Now, if they are in an asynchronous data transfer mode, so always in an asynchronous data transfer mode, what will happen? In an asynchronous data transfer mode, both the devices have to tell each other that this is the timing at which they had sent the data, So that is facilitated with the help of a signal. That signal is called as a strobe pulse. That signal is called as the strobe pulse. Okay. Now, this is the first way of doing things. What is the first way of doing things? This asynchronous data transfer can be facilitated with the help of a strobe pulse. So I'll read it verbatim. It is supplied by one of its units to indicate to the other unit when the data transfer has to occur. The second method is each data item which is being transferred, it also has a control signal. Okay. So this control signal will tell the other that there is a data in the bus. Okay. The receiving unit also will be using its own control signal to acknowledge that this data has been received. This data has been received. So this type of agreement is called as handshaking. This type of agreement is called as handshaking. So there are two ways. What are the two ways? Stroke pulse and handshaking. Stroke pulse and handshaking are the two ways of facilitating asynchronous data transfer. Facilitating asynchronous data transfer. Now, this asynchronous data transfer can be explained with the help of a timing diagram. So this timing diagram actually tells the relationship between the control signals and the data in the buses. The relationship between the control signals and the data in the buses. I'll repeat once again. All the books, all the literature to explain asynchronous data transfer uses timing diagram. Okay, so this timing diagram does what? It shows the timing relationship which exists between control signal and the data. Okay, now the sequence of the control again depends on whether the data transfer is initiated by the source or whether the data transfer is initiated by the destination. Okay, so hopefully you understood the meaning of synchronous data transfer, the meaning of asynchronous data transfer, the meaning of stroke pulse, because stroke pulse is used for asynchronous, handshaking again is used for asynchronous. And what one more keyword is timing diagram. One more keyword is timing diagram. Let us look at this stroke control now. Okay, stroke pulse or stroke control. What is the purpose of stroke control or stroke pulse? The purpose of stroke control or stroke pulse is it is used to facilitate what? It is used to facilitate asynchronous data transfer. Okay, for facilitating that asynchronous data transfer, what it does, it uses a single control line. It uses a single control line. What is the purpose of this single control line? It does the timing each data transfer. It does the timing of each data transfer. Okay, this stroke pulse can be activated by the source or by the destination. This stroke can be activated by the source or the destination. Let us look at how it happens. Okay, remember once again, what is stroke pulse? This is used for asynchronous data transfer. What it has a control line. What is the purpose of a control line? For timing of each of the transfer. Who can give the stroke pulse? The source or the destination. Whoever wants to initiate, he can initiate. Now, the source unit places the data on the data bus. So first thing which happens is the source unit will be putting the data on the data bus. There is a delay. Now this delay is used for what? This delay is used for so that the data settle down to a steady value. The data settles down to a steady value. I'll repeat once again. First, the source sends the data on the data bus. Then it keeps a delay. This delay is used for settling the data to a steady value. After that, the stroke pulse will be activated. After that, the stroke pulse will be activated. The data information and the stroke pulse both remain in active state. Both remain in active state for time so that the destination unit receives the data. The destination unit, I know that after showing you the diagram, it will be more easier for you to absorb this functionality. Okay, so don't worry if you're getting a bit confused, because I'll be repeating again while showing you the diagram. Now you have to just listen how this stroke works. Okay, now the destination unit, what it does, it uses the falling edge of the stroke pulse to transfer contents of the data bus into one of its internal registers. So see here what is happening. First, source unit, what it does, data on the data bus. Second, source unit, what it does, delay. What is the purpose of delay? Data settling. After that, third thing source does, sends a stroke pulse. Now both the stroke and the data are in what state? They are in the active state. Why they are in the active state? So that the receiver can receive the data. Now, who is the receiver? We call it as a destination unit. Now the destination unit will be using the falling edge of the stroke pulse to transfer the contents of the data bus into one of its internal registers. Now, once that is done, once the destination unit takes the data, the source removes the data from the bus. Okay. Uh, when after it disable the stroke pulse. But by default, the moment stroke pulse is disabled, there is no meaning of data being present or data being absent. There is no meaning of data being present or data being absent. I am assuming that only 5 to 10 students have listened to this carefully, uh, because I can understand the attention span is a bit difficult. But I request you now to look at the diagram very clearly, because diagram is self-explanatory. The diagram is self-explanatory. What is the topic? The topic is asynchronous data transfer. Okay. In that also, what is the topic? Strobe control. So asynchronous data transfer can be done with the help of strobe control, strobe pulse, or with the help of handshaking. But we are learning this asynchronous data transfer using strobe control. Using strobe control. Let us look at the diagram. Let us look at the diagram. Let us all take some seconds to absorb this diagram, and whosoever wants to explain can explain. After that, anyways, I am going to explain this diagram. Okay. Take few seconds to read this. Okay, guys, anybody wants to take the lead in explaining this simple diagram? Please do so. Please, who will take the lead? Vamshi, are you there? Sai, can you explain this diagram to me? Or anybody in the class? Pujita, would you want to explain? Okay. Am I audible to you all? First tell me. Uh-huh. Am I audible to you all, boys? Are you listening to me? Okay. Mahivar, can you explain this simple diagram to me, please? Or anybody in the class? Who will explain? Please come forward. Did you understand or did you not understand? You want me to repeat? First, you answer. Did you understand this diagram? Respond, please. Okay, I am assuming that you want one more time explanation. Okay. Look at this diagram. This is strobe transfer. Okay, strobe is used for asynchronous data transfer. Look at the heading here. Asynchronous data transfer. Asynchronous data transfer, one technique is strobe pulse. That strobe control only we are trying to explain here. See here. Okay. Here, there is a source, there is a destination. Okay. Now, both the source and the destination can send data to each other, but both source and destination are using their own clock, are using their own private clocks. So the data transfer is asynchronous. So for asynchronous data transfer, to bring synchronization, basically we use a strobe control. So what this is, a source initiated strobe, means the source will be first sending the data. Here, see here. If you compare the timing diagram, the data is first sent by the source. Here there is a lag between the data and the strobe. Strobe is sent later. See, first data is sent, after some delay, strobe is sent. After some delay, strobe is sent. Why? Because you want this data to be settling down to a steady value. You want this data to be settling down to a steady value. Now, once the data is settled to the steady value, the strobe is sent. Strobe and data are active now. Strobe and data are active. This time is enough. This time is enough for the destination to receive the data and copy the data. So destination usually copies the data at this trailing edge of the strobe, This is as simple as that. Somebody, if takes up, without taking anybody's name, if somebody takes up and explains the diagram, I'll be very happy, or I'll proceed further. Somebody is taking up, make it fast. Anybody wants to explain? Why it happens? Okay, I'll try to finish this. And look at this destination initiated strobe. See here, you can see the destination unit is sending the strobe first. Okay. In such case, the source unit, after getting from the destination unit the strobe, then it will start sending the data. That's why there is a difference here in this diagram and in this diagram. See here, the strobe has been sent, and when it is sent, after that the data is coming here again, steady settling down. Then again, it is enough time for receiver to copy that data, or the destination to copy that data. This is what is your strobe control. Now, let us focus on this last. Paragraph, which says that strobe pulse is controlled by clock pulses of the CPU. Okay? CPU always controls the buses, and it informs the external devices how to transfer the data. So basically, CPU is controlling this, the strobe pulse. Okay. Now, even the data exchange between CPU and interface unit is similar to strobe transfer. Okay, which is described here. If you understood this, you should remember that in the same fashion, the data transfer between the CPU and the IO unit will be happening. In the same fashion, the data transfer between the IO unit and the uh, CPU will be happening. This is what is about the stroke control. This is what is about the stroke control. Again, I'll take a pause here, and I'll take attendance, and let us proceed